It actually tastes very similar to something my mom made when we were growing up. I am very excited about tonight's dinner. We are making a baked Tuscan chicken casserole. Anytime a recipe says Tuscan, I am here for it. I am going to try it. I just took this cream cheese out of the refrigerator, so it's still not softened. I need to get about 3 ounces of the cream cheese. I'm gonna soften it here in this bowl. I have to preheat my oven. We need to preheat the oven to 400 degrees. Okay, you can use frozen spinach if you want. You just need to squeeze out all the excess water. So you want it to be thawed and dry. I am actually using fresh spinach because we have it available. So that's pretty much what I go for anytime I make a recipe like this. I need a decent sized bunch because it is going to wilt a lot. So you want a good amount. I'm gonna chop it up as kind of as small as possible here. Probably should be using a larger knife for this, but you know. Now obviously if you use frozen, it's gonna look like a lot less than this. So let's go ahead and add it in to the cream cheese. Just start combining the ingredients as we add them in. Okay, we do wanna add about 3 ounces of heavy cream. The entire container that I have here is 16 ounces. I have a scale, so I'm just gonna lay this on the scale and weigh out 3 ounces. But you can just kind of estimate if you want. You guys are probably all shocked that I'm actually measuring. It's probably just under a cup. Okay, let's stir that together. And you don't have to stir each individual ingredient together. That is just me, you know, being me. We need to add some minced garlic. The recipe actually calls for 4 cloves, which, you know, that makes me excited because I actually prefer a lot of garlic. I've got my teaspoon measurer and I'm gonna add probably 3 teaspoons or so. But if you feel like that's a lot, that's totally okay. Just cut it down. We do need to add about a ½ teaspoon of salt. Now, some of the cheeses that we're gonna be adding to this is gonna give it a little bit of a salty flavor. Parmesan, to me, has kind of a salty flavor. So you don't have to add too much salt because of that. Okay, we are going to add some onion powder. Let's add about a ½ teaspoon. You can measure this. I'm just going by amounts that I know that we like. I've got some chili powder here. We're gonna add roughly a 1/4 teaspoon of chili powder. You can add more, again. All these flavors smell really good. We've got some Italian seasoning. We're going for about a teaspoon on this one. This is one of those ones where we really enjoy it, so we might add a little more. Now, you can absolutely do this and like you can beat it all together if that's what you want. I just didn't feel like it was necessary. It's combining really well. It just didn't really need my hand mixer or anything like that. Okay, I am going to add some cheese into this mixture. So I've got some mozzarella and I'm gonna add about half of it. You're gonna need a total of about 3/4 of a cup or a cup, whatever you prefer. And I'm also gonna add some of this Asiago blend that we have because why not? Not too much, just a little bit because we are gonna top this with a little bit more cheese. I just wanna have it mixed in together as well. Okay, now I'm gonna be using a small dish, a small square dish. I don't think we need the 9x13 baking dish, but I do wanna spray this really well, especially since there's cheeses in this. I'm gonna add in my chicken breast. I cut my chicken breast through the center like this, and we pretty much always do that. For some reason, we just prefer it. We think that it's better that way. I don't know, it's a family preference, so that's what I usually do. We do want to season the chicken breast just a bit, so I'm gonna add some salt and pepper. And again, if you're new here, this is something I say quite a bit, always season from up high, then you don't get the clumps, so you're it's spreading it out more evenly. I'm also going to add a little bit of pepper, and I'm gonna add a little bit of onion powder and a touch of garlic powder to the chicken. You can also absolutely flip this and add seasoning to the other side. Okay, let's take this mixture and we are gonna spread this all over the top of the chicken. And the oven is ready, which is perfect timing because we are almost ready to put this in there. Spread it as evenly as possible. We want to make sure each one of these pieces of chicken get this good sauce on the top. Y'all, this one is just so good. So if you haven't tried this before, it's so good. I have some sun-dried tomatoes here in a bag. You absolutely can buy the ones in the jar that have the oil in them. I'm just gonna use these so perfect. I don't even have to cut them. And this is kind of a preference, like however much you enjoy. This is one thing our family absolutely loves is sun-dried tomatoes. We're gonna make sure there's a decent amount of sun-dried tomatoes. Plus, it looks so pretty when it comes out of the oven and you see that red kind of pop through the cheese. Trust me on this one. It is one of the prettiest dishes, in my opinion, when you pull this out of the oven. If you used the sun-dried tomatoes that are in the jar that have the oil in them, take a tablespoon of the oil and drizzle it over the top. If you use the ones that I did, just take about a tablespoon of olive oil or your favorite cooking oil and just sprinkle that over the top. Okay, the last thing we wanna do is top this with a little bit more cheese. So we reserved some of our cheese for just this. I'm gonna grab some foil. We do wanna loosely cover this with foil for the first 20 minutes in the oven. Once that 20 minutes is done with the foil on, we're gonna pull it off and bake for an additional 15 minutes or so with the foil off. Look how delicious this chicken looks. We already know we love this because we actually have had this before. Guys, the flavors of this are phenomenal. You have to make this. You have to. It's so good. This one is stuffed shells. My family loves this one. It's so easy to make. I promise you, it looks way more complicated when it's done than it actually is. You need to start with these jumbo shells. So you can get these in your grocery store, either that or like a manicotti, something that's easy to stuff. We're gonna get our water boiling over here on the stovetop so that we can get these noodles cooked up. They only take about 5 minutes. I am using a turkey sausage. Now, 2 reasons. A, because turkey sausage is a little bit less expensive, and B, because I didn't like the way that the pork sausage looked in the grocery store. But feel free to do this. You can also use ground beef. You can also use Italian sausage. There's so many different meats that you can put in this. I've actually made this vegetarian before and done spinach with the ricotta instead of a protein. You can go multiple different ways with this. You could also stuff them with a spinach ricotta and then make a meat sauce for the top. You do it however you want to do it. If you guys have been here for a while, you know that I typically make my own spaghetti sauce or marinara sauce or pizza sauce or whatever you want to call it, but we're going to be using crushed tomatoes. I'm gonna be honest with you, this is not my preference. I think tomato sauce is better for this specific recipe just because of the water content in crushed tomatoes. But that's what we had available, so I got the crushed tomatoes. We're gonna add in some different spices. You guys know I like to add Worcestershire, I like to add Italian seasoning, oregano, parsley, all these different kinds of flavors. I add just a touch of sugar just to cut that acidity of the tomatoes. And then these are no salt added, so I am gonna add a touch of salt into this, and that's it. That's pretty much ready to go. You can add whatever kind of flavors you want in here. Add some onion, add some garlic, add whatever it is that you like. I'm gonna be making up our ricotta mixture, and there are so many different ways that you can go about doing this. I'm gonna empty this entire container of ricotta here into this mixing bowl, and we're gonna add a touch of milk just to thin it out. You don't have to do this. Another thing you can actually do is add an egg, and that's gonna kind of help it bind together a little bit. So many different ways to do this, but we're just gonna add a touch of milk into this and then some flavor, some Italian seasoning, a little bit of salt and pepper, and then we're gonna add some of this Italian cheese blend. Now this is, I could have got several different kinds of cheeses, but I thought this was the easy route. I'm just gonna buy this Italian cheese blend. It's got all the different Italian style cheeses in it, and we're just gonna add some of this. So I'm probably adding roughly a half a cup or so, but I'm not measuring this. All right, let's mix all of this together. Once that turkey sausage is cooked up, we're gonna add it all into this ricotta mixture and stir it all up together. So now we have the shells, we've got the marinara, we've got the ricotta mixture, everything is set up and ready to go. It's time to stuff those shells. I personally think just going into my utensils drawer and grabbing a spoon is the easiest utensil for this, but you go with whatever you think is best for you. We're just gonna take a spoonful of that and stuff a shell and then put it into a baking dish. Now, depending on how much you want to make, You use whatever size baking dish you want. There's a lot of shells in here. You could easily, I could have easily made a half box of this. Don't feel like you have to make the entire box. I've got my oven set to 375. We are going to add some sauce to the top of all of these stuffed shells. That sauce that we made, we're just kind of drizzling it on the top. You add as much or as little sauce as you want. Remember, these shells are already cooked, so you don't have to add liquid contents to get the shells to cook because that part has already happened. So just add whatever amount of sauce that you prefer and top that with some more cheese. You guys know we gotta have a little bit more cheese. Now I'm gonna put this in the oven covered first. I just wanna make sure that everything gets really nice and heated through. I don't wanna heat up the cheese too much. I'm not looking for a brown color. I'm just looking for a nice melted cheese across the top. So I'm gonna cover it first. We're gonna throw it in the oven for about 20 to 30 minutes. Then we'll take the foil off of it and cook it for about 5 more minutes, just making sure that that cheese is ready to go. All right, friends, I'm topping mine with a little bit of parsley here because we love that color. You know, you gotta add that pop of green and that just really hits the eye. And so you look at this and you think, oh, it's so beautiful. I love all the color on this. This one is so delicious. My family always eats it up. My kids are such huge fans of red sauce. And so they love things like this. Spaghetti, lasagna, ravioli, anything with red sauce is a huge hit in our household, and they love this one. All right, tonight for dinner, we are having chicken Divan. Every time I say this, I feel like I'm saying it wrong, but I don't think I am. How do you pronounce it? D-I-V-A-N, Divan, something like that. Anyway, I've made it before, it's very good. We enjoy it. I'm gonna share it with you guys. We're gonna go ahead and get this broccoli chopped, and I am just gonna heat it up in this Pampered Chef pot that I have. If you don't have one of these, it's totally fine. Just steam it in a pot on the stovetop. All right, so this pot is really simple. So all you do, for me anyway, is add a little bit of salt to the pot to make sure they get flavor. Add a little bit of water, and then it goes in the microwave for a couple minutes and your vegetables come out steamed. Okay, I've already cut up a large chicken breast into bite-sized pieces. We're gonna take this over to the stove and just heat it up a little bit. It's a casserole. It's gonna go in the oven, so I just wanna get a nice sear on them. I actually just made up some Italian sausage in that same pan. I'm using the same pan because it's gonna add so much good flavor to that chicken. I'm really excited about this. All right, so we've got our chicken prepped, we've got our broccoli prepped, I've got some shredded, you guys know it, Kerrygold cheese, that's what we always go with. I'm about to preheat my oven to 400 degrees. Now for our size family, we are only making a half size of this casserole. Let me start by greasing the pan because if I don't do it while I'm thinking about it, I will forget. We've got our broccoli, we made that in the Pampered Chef pot. Let me make sure it's nice and drained. Now this is just gonna go at the bottom. Ooh, I actually may have cooked that a smidge too long. So you want it to still be a little bit crisp, but that's okay, it'll still be delicious. We've got a nice big bowl here. I'm gonna take about a cup of cheese. This might be a little more. We really don't need the full cup because this is a half recipe, but you guys know you gotta have a good amount of cheese to make it really good, okay? Now this is a cream of base. Cream of mushroom soup is what the recipe called for. But if you guys have been here for a bit, you've seen that I usually make this. I just make the base. I don't worry about the chicken part or the mushroom part. It would be 1 can. I'm gonna pour that in. And honestly, if you're making a smaller portion like I am, you can absolutely cut that down and just do a half can. I just really like this to be a really creamy casserole. That's just, I'm a fan of that for this. We're gonna add Greek yogurt. You guys can absolutely add sour cream if you want to, about 1/3 cup. And I'm not measuring, this is completely just a guesstimation here. Now, the recipe actually calls for you to add milk. Because I made my own cream of, I really don't feel like it needs milk, so I'm gonna skip that. If you use a can, you may wanna add about 1/2 cup of milk just to thin it out. So now we need to add some garlic powder, and I literally have just enough to add a little bit of garlic powder. Even though it requires a 1/2 teaspoon, that's probably about exactly what I have. And then I have just about a 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder as well. So clearly it's time to restock spices. I'm gonna go ahead and add that in. I'm gonna take my cooked chicken and we're gonna add this in and just combine it all together. Take this whole thing and we're going to just put it right over the top. I am gonna make sure to get all of that out of the bowl because that's the goodness right there. I am gonna sprinkle with a little bit more cheese Not too much because we already added more cheese in the recipe than it actually called for, but you guys know we love it here. We just love this, especially this Kerrygold cheese. How many times have I said that? Let's make a guess. How many times have I said how much we love the Kerrygold cheese here on my channel? 742 approximately. I've got some Ritz crackers here. I'm gonna crush them right here in the bag. Sprinkle that over the top, but like I said, if you have panko, you can use that too. I have 1 tablespoon of melted butter. We're gonna take that melted butter and just drizzle over the top. Now, my oven is still preheating, but once it's ready, this is gonna go into the oven at 400 degrees for about 20 to 22 minutes, and then it will be ready to serve. All right, this casserole came out looking so good. I love the rice edition. Let's give it a try. That's so tasty. It actually tastes very similar to something my mom made when we were growing up. She just calls it chicken casserole or broccoli casserole. And it's kind of a marrying the two, but very, very good. That you can taste that Kerrygold cheese, which is so good. And that cream of base, delicious, you guys. Is that yours? Is that yours? That's a no, ma'am. My dog is being disrupted because I'm not giving her attention at this moment while I film this. Our verse this week comes from Matthew 6:14. For if you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. If you'd like to see more videos just like this, click the link above in the playlist and you'll get more inspiration.